To kick off their D23 panel this past weekend, Lucasfilm released the final trailer for the upcoming Andor series. I've mostly avoided any of the new scenes or TV spots released online, so it's hard for me to tell what's new and what isn't, but for the most part, it all looked exceptionally good as always. The only shot from the trailer that I thought was out of the norm was when we see Mon Mothma in the Imperial Senate. I thought that the background lighting gave it away, but it may fit better when I see it included in the episode, rather than just a short snapshot of it. One thing that I am sure of though is that the trailer did a good job of establishing the tone and themes for the series. It starts off with Cassian's lines from Rogue One about how he's done terrible things for the rebellion, and it's shown when he's seen sticking a blaster in someone's face. I think many fans assumed this is something that would be explored when the series was first announced, but I still think seeing a hardened Cassian Andor threaten lives unnecessarily is going to make us as an audience rethink how we view the Rebel Alliance. It's explored more later in the trailer, but just because they fight the Empire doesn't mean they're necessarily fighting for good, and it also doesn't mean they're doing it in a noble way. This is followed by a meeting between Luthen Rael and Cassian, which I believe comes from a part of the released scene where Cassian is recruited. This looks to be at a point earlier in the series where Cassian is still out on his own, doing small jobs to hurt the Empire, but not fully committing to any larger movement. Luthen asks him if he would rather give it all at once for something real, and this really seems to capture what the character of Luthen is all about. He's accepted that he's going to die fighting the Empire, and is only concerned about doing as much harm to them as he can before that happens. And now he's trying to recruit Cassian to do the same thing, to stop doing small hits and give it everything he has in the present, whether it risks his life or not. From what we've seen so far, it looks like Luthen Rael will be similar to what we've seen from Saw Gerrera in Rebels and Rogue One, someone who is willing to fight the Empire in whatever way necessary, as long as it hurts them, whether it risks innocent lives or not. Since this is the case, I'm interested to see how Saw will be portrayed in the series. He could possibly be a middle ground between Mon Mothma and Luthen Rael, and might end up becoming a mentor to Cassian as well in terms of perspective of the war. We're introduced to Val Sartha, to whom my knowledge has not been seen in any other promotional material yet. She reminds Mon Mothma that they're fighting against the dark, and it seems that she'll be a friend to Mothma who helps her come to terms with the war against the Empire. During a conversation between Mon Mothma and Luthen Rael, which is partially edited together, we're shown her hesitancy to start a full-blown war because of how it will impact people. She wants to fight back against the Empire, but she wants to do it in a way that won't hurt anyone, which turns out to be a major part of war. Val may be the one to ease her conscience and convince her that diplomacy isn't going to win this war, and people are going to get hurt if they are to make a real impact. This would make for a compelling character arc for Mon Mothma throughout the series, if she has to come to terms with the side effects of war and fighting back against tyranny. We're then introduced to the Imperial side of the series, and it's seen how one of our main characters, Dendra Miro, is different from the rest of the ISB officers. She is the one to express concern over an organized rebellion, and I think she and Kyle Solar could become compelling villains throughout the series. I've seen them described as outsiders within the ISB because of their concern over the growing rebellion, and that could grow into a very interesting concept as Luthen and Cassian begin to make their presence known to the Empire. After that, there are some troopers seen in a town setting, and while they appear to be Phase 2 clone troopers, it's an Imperial officer standing nearby, so it's not entirely clear when it takes place. It could be in the early stages of the Empire while clones were still a part of the Imperial military. I assume we'll see some flashbacks from when Cassian was younger, and it makes sense to see clone armor in these scenes, which would possibly expand upon the Empire's transition from clones to conscripts. Overall, this series continues to impress me based on the footage that we've seen so far. Be sure to check back next week for complete coverage of Andor, with episode reviews being released every Wednesday. And I'll also be releasing a video that covers what characters I would and would not like to see make appearances throughout Andor on Monday. Be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of it. Remember to like the video, and let me know how excited you are for Andor to premiere next week in the comments below. And follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Thank you all for watching, and remember, the Force will be with you, always.